welcome back to the show. This is The Mental Breakdown. I'm your host, Joey Velez. Now, have you ever wanted something so badly that instead of helping you perform better, it actually made it harder to perform? Maybe it was a championship game, a tournament, a tryout, an office presentation. You've worked hard, you've prepared for it, you were motivated heading into that moment, but then the thoughts started to become, I have to win, I can't mess up, I've worked too hard to fail. And suddenly motivation doesn't feel very motivating anymore. It feels like pressure. So today's episode is really about when motivation becomes pressure. Okay? Now motivation is generally a good thing. It's what we get in the gym when we're tired. It helps us continue to practice and progress when things aren't going our way, and helps you pursue different goals. But motivation isn't always experienced the same way, right? There's a big difference between saying, I want to perform my best today, and I have to perform my best today. That one word, have, can change everything. When motivation becomes tied to fear, self-worth, external expectations, people can start moving away from enjoying the process and toward trying to avoid failure. Now, think about an athlete who says, I want to win because I love competing, and compare that with someone who says, I have to win because my coach will be disappointed if I don't. Both individuals are motivated, but their motivation is coming from very different places. The first athlete is focused more on the experience, the challenge, the opportunity, whereas the second athlete is more focused on avoiding disappointment, criticism, losing their position, and letting other people down. Now, that distinction matters because pressure can change where an athlete's attention goes. Instead of focusing on the next pitch, the next shot, the next play, they start thinking about the consequences. What if I miss? What if I lose? What will everybody think? And that's where things can start to break down. Now, performance under pressure, research has shown that athletes can become overly focused on their own performance when the stakes are high. And that increased things like self-consciousness, which can now interfere with skills that normally happen from an automatic standpoint. So in other words, an athlete who normally trusts their training may suddenly start trying to consciously control every little part of their performance. And we've all seen this happen before, right? Like a golfer who normally makes a 2-foot putt starts overthinking their putting stroke. A basketball player who normally shoots, 90% from the free throw line starts overly thinking about their mechanics. A baseball player starts worrying about what happens if they strike out. The problem isn't necessarily that the athlete cares too much, it's that the outcome has become way too important. So, how do we keep motivation from turning into pressure? One way is to shift from outcome goals to process goals. So instead of thinking that I need to win, try thinking, what do I need to do right now? Maybe that's keeping your eye on the ball, maintaining your breathing, communicating with teammates, committing to your pre-shot routine. Whatever it is, the outcome is important, but it's not completely under your control. But things like your preparation, your effort, your attention, your response to adversity, those are things that are much more controllable. Another thing you can try is changing the language that you use. And so there's a difference between saying I have to win and I get the opportunity to compete. There's a difference between I can't make a mistake to if I make a mistake, I know how to respond. And there's a difference between I have to prove myself and I trust the work I've already put in. Now, this last one may be one of the most important shifts people can make because confidence under pressure doesn't necessarily come from believing that you're guaranteed to succeed. It can come from believing that you're capable of handling whatever happens next. That's an important distinction. You don't need to convince yourself that you're going to hit the game-winning shot. You need to trust that you can step into that moment, commit to your process, and respond appropriately, whether the shot goes in or not. And this is also where coaches, parents have an important role. We want athletes to be motivated. We want them to have high standards. We want them to pursue excellence, but we also need to be careful about communicating that performance determines an athlete's value. Because when people start to believe that if I don't perform, then I'm a failure, motivation can quickly turn into things like anxiety, fear, stress, burnout, or even avoidance. Now, modern sports psychology increasingly helps athletes manage both performance and well-being rather than treating those goals as completely separate. So one takeaway for today is that motivation should give you direction, but it shouldn't create fear. It's okay to want to win. It's okay to have high expectations. It's okay to care deeply about your sport. But when the thought of losing becomes more powerful than the desire to compete, motivation may have crossed into that pressure zone. Okay? So the next time you find yourself thinking, I have to do this, try replacing it with, I get to do this. I trust my preparation. And I'm going to focus on what I can control. Because ultimately, great performance isn't about eliminating pressure, it's about learning how to perform with pressure present without allowing it to control you. Right? So trust your training, control your controllables, and don't let the desire to succeed become the fear of failure. And that's what I have for y'all today. And thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, rate, review, download the podcast, share with your family and friends. I want y'all to have a great rest of your day. Don't forget, today's a great day to make an impact on someone's life. Right, y'all. Have a good one.